Hey everyone, before we dive into this story, please hit that subscribe button to support my channel. It means the world. Now, let's get started. My father didn't request, he demanded. 3 loud raps struck my door, sharp like bullets in a silent courtroom. When I swung it open, there stood Richard Hayes, my father, the man who once dubbed me his treasure, clutching a hefty folder brimming with blame and figures. The money's due tomorrow, he snapped, thrusting the folder into my grip. 800,000. Madison's mess. No excuses. My sister's error. My father's command. My quiet nod. I offered a faint smile, just enough to unsettle him. All right, I replied. For hours later, my suitcase wheels hummed through the deserted airport terminal, my heels clicking like a judge's gavel. I wasn't fleeing. I was laying the groundwork. The next day, when my father returned for his payment, he found my door bolted and a lone box waiting on the porch. Inside, it held everything he'd instilled in me, and everything he'd lose because of it. He stood in my living room like he commanded the very air. Richard Hayes, my father, the man whose presence could shrink a space just by existing. His cologne hit first, pricey, overpowering, a ghost of his prosperous days. Behind him, my sister Madison lingered, her eyes wide, her face drained, playing the fragile daughter she'd mastered years ago. Olivia. My father started, my name dropping like a hammer. You've done well for yourself. Built a fortune. Time to remember who it's for. I crossed my arms. Didn't know success came with a debt collector. He brushed off the quip, yanking out the folder and smacking it onto my sleek countertop. 800,000. Madison and Tyler's debt. You'll wire it by noon tomorrow. Done. I blinked deliberately. You're kidding. Does it look like I'm kidding? His jaw tightened. These are dangerous people. If she doesn't pay, they'll come for her. And then me. Then maybe you shouldn't have backed her loan, I said, my voice steady. His glare could have scorched wood. Don't play clever, Liv. Family first. Madison edged closer, her voice soft, quivering. A tune I despised. Please, Liv, we've got kids. Tyler just made a bad call. We'll pay you back. I let out a single, sharp laugh, devoid of humor. Like last time. This time's different, she pressed, twisting her wedding ring like a prayer bead. Dad slammed his hand on the counter. Enough. You'll send the money. You can afford it. Unless you've forgotten what family means. Family. The word landed like venom. I studied them both. The father who turned love into leverage, the sister who spent it without care. Then I smiled, a small, disquieting curve. Fine, I said softly. Noon tomorrow. They exhaled, mistaking my agreement for obedience. Madison gave a practiced hug, and my father clapped my shoulder like he'd sealed another contract. When the door closed behind them, the house's silence shifted. It wasn't hollow, it pulsed with life. I sat, opened the folder, and stared at the debt. $800,000. Tyler's betting slips. Madison's luxury purchases. My father's signature anchoring it all. My smile grew. Noon tomorrow, I murmured. Perfect. A family portrait hangs in my father's study, framed in gold, glowing under a spotlight he chose himself. Madison beams in it, as if she crafted joy itself. My father looms tall behind her, while I'm tucked to the side, half cut by the frame. That picture tells our story. Growing up, I learned love in our home came with strings. Madison wept, and Dad mended it. I thrived, and he cautioned me against arrogance. When Mom passed, he didn't crumble, he just poured all his grief into shielding Madison, the delicate one. I was the sturdy daughter, the dependable one, which really meant the one they could bleed dry without shattering. I funded Madison's degree when Dad's wallet ran thin. I helped bankroll her wedding when Tyler's venture tanked. I even bought their first house, though the title stayed quietly under my LLC. Not theirs. Every favor tightened the noose I didn't know I tied around myself. Dad always preached family first. But in his world, that meant Madison first. The more I carved out my own path, my consulting firm, my downtown apartment, the more he saw my independence as betrayal. Self-reliance was defiance, confidence a revolt. So when he dropped that folder on my counter, I saw more than a debt. I saw a cycle. I saw how he'd wielded love as a tool for years, and how Madison had honed her fragility into a weapon. I poured a glass of water, gazed at the city lights, and wondered how many daughters had become their family's lifeline, trained to call it obligation. $800,000. A sister who wouldn't grow. A father who wouldn't yield. And me, the daughter who finally would. By midnight, my choice was set. The next time my father knocked, he'd meet not a daughter, but reckoning. By dawn, a plan unfolded in my mind, instinctive, like a reflex I didn't know I possessed. Watching my father's power plays for years had taught me something. Control isn't loud. It's quiet, precise, timed to the second. I opened my laptop, accessing 3 accounts, personal, business, and one I discreetly set up under a separate LLC. Madison and Dad thought I was just a numbers whiz. They didn't know I'd built kingdoms from others' chaos. First, I locked down what was mine. I froze the joint trust Dad had slyly added his name to last year for convenience. That convenience was done. Next, I moved my personal funds to a new, private account, untethered from any family ties. Then I called Laura Bennett, my lawyer and closest confidant. "Tell me you're finally free," she said, groggy but alert. "I'm done bankrolling their failures," I replied. "Good. Subtle or loud?" I grinned. Both. Within an hour, she'd carried out every step we'd mapped out months ago when I'd first admitted I might cut ties. Title transfers, canceled powers of attorney, revoked signing rights, each click a quiet liberation. Then came the box, a plain cardboard one, the kind you'd use for moving or burying secrets. Inside, I crafted my message. Copies of every payment to Madison and Tyler, screenshots of Dad's desperate texts, the deed to Madison's house in my name, and a single $10,000 cashier's check. On top, a handwritten note. "You said family comes first, Dad. But maybe honesty should. This isn't vengeance, it's a ledger." I sealed it with tape, the sound crisp in the silent room. Then I booked a one-way flight to Maine. As the confirmation email landed, a calm I hadn't felt in years washed over me. For once, I wasn't the answer. I was the outcome. By 9 a.m., my suitcase was ready. Passport, laptop, a single photo of Mom and me by the lake. In 4 hours, my father would pound on my door demanding cash. He'd find only silence and a box with his name. The city was still waking as I drove away. Dawn painted the sky in soft orange, the kind of light that makes even the past feel clean. My suitcase sat on the passenger seat, humming with each turn. No heirlooms, no mementos, just essentials and freedom packed tight. The airport was nearly empty. Businessmen drifted like specters, gripping briefcases. Parents hushed sleepy children. No one gave me a second glance, and I savored it. I'd been invisible to my family, but only when it suited them. At security, the officer smiled. "Where to?" "Maine," I said. "Fresh start." He nodded, like it wasn't new to him. At the gate, I sipped coffee stronger than my resolve and watched the sunrise slice through the windows. The last flight I took was for Madison's wedding, a weekend of forced smiles and drained accounts. Now I was flying toward quiet. When boarding was called, I didn't glance back at the terminal. I didn't care if anyone was chasing me, shouting my name. Through the plane's small window, the world shrank. Houses, roads, the burden of duty. I picture my father in my living room hours from now, confident, impatient, ready to claim his prize. He'd knock, he'd yell, then he'd spot the box. I imagine his hands shaking as he opened it, the sharp intake of breath when he realized the narrative had shifted, and he wasn't the one writing it. As the plane soared through the clouds, I exhaled a breath I hadn't known I was holding. No more guilt, no more rescuing, just sky. At 12:30 p.m., my doorbell camera flicked on. I watched the footage later, perched on a rented porch in Maine, coffee trembling in my grip. There was Richard Hayes, my father, standing on my doorstep like he owned the earth beneath it. His tie was flawless, his face was not. He was furious. Angry men don't knock, they declare. "Olivia," he bellowed, hammering the door. "Open up." We had an agreement. Madison lingered behind, clutching her designer purse like a shield against truth. "Maybe she's not here," she murmured, her voice wavering. Then he saw the box, plain, brown, his name scrawled in black. He frowned, crouching to open it as if curiosity could still be his friend. The tape tore, the flaps parted, then silence, followed by the rustle of papers. He froze. "What is this?" he muttered. Madison leaned in, puzzled. "What's in it?" "Records," he said, voice tight, flipping through pages. His breath caught as he read the first line: mortgage transfer. Hayes Residence, Oakline Holdings. Olivia Hayes, owner. He scanned faster, dates, payments, signatures, even his own forged approval for a credit line in my name. Each page chipped away at his pride. "Olivia," he growled, my name like a blade. Then he found the USB drive. He held it, baffled, then plugged it into the small speaker I'd left on the porch. My voice spilled out, "Dad, you taught me family comes first, but you never taught me how to survive being the only one who believed it. This box isn't revenge. It's the truth, and the truth comes with proof." Madison gasped. "She recorded us." He didn't respond, staring at the photo I'd placed on top. Us at the lake, before love became a ledger. His fingers trembled. Then he read my note, my handwriting steady. "If you ever loved me for me, not for what I could fix, you'd stop pounding on my door and start facing a mirror." For the first time, I saw him crack. Not rage, not lecture, just break. His shoulders slumped. The box slipped from his hands. Madison sobbed, not for me, but for herself. "What now?" she whispered. He didn't answer, only murmured, "We lost her." Then he turned, stepped off the porch, and left the box behind. At that moment, 1,400 miles away, I sat in a quiet cafe, watching the tide roll in, and whispered back, "No, you lost control." By morning, the silence broke. My phone, now with a new number and SIM, buzzed with Laura's updates, each one sharp and precise. Hayes Supply Board called an emergency audit. "You were right about the missing funds." Madison called, ranted about betrayal, then asked if you'd cover her rent. "They froze your father's company card." He's livid. I set the phone down, letting the ocean's rhythm fill the space where family once lived. Back in Austin, the unraveling began. Dad's business partners demanded answers. Madison's curated life cracked under whispers and leaked posts, vacations, designer bags, paired with hashtag financial hardship. The comment stung, "Must be tough struggling in Gucci." Tyler vanished first, on a business trip to Vegas no one bought. Creditors followed, their knocks soft but chilling. Madison tried reaching Dad. He ignored her. Pride and fear now shared space in his chest. At 10 p.m., Laura called. "You did what was necessary, Liv, but he's coming apart." "I know," I said softly. "He has to." Later, doorbell footage from my neighbor, Mrs. Morales, hit my inbox. Madison stood on my porch under the dim light. Makeup streaked, mascara a confession of its own. She clutched the box, screaming my name like it could turn back time. "Liv, we're family. You can't just disappear." Her voice broke, then softened. "Please, I don't know what to do." I closed the laptop. Her pleas lingered, heavier than I wanted. But I didn't cry. Not this time. Because no one tells you this part. When you stop saving people, you watch them either swim or sink. 2 days later, Laura texted, "Your father resigned from Hayes Supply. Board replaced him with the VP. Clean exit." Relief came quietly, thin but real. For the first time, my father's power no longer reached my accounts, my conscience, or my pulse. I wasn't the dutiful daughter anymore. I was the woman who found peace in being misjudged. A week later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I nearly ignored it, but instinct whispered his name. Olivia. My father's voice was softer, stripped of its usual command. "We need to talk." "Why?" "Because I get it now. The box. Everything." He exhaled, unsteady. "You shamed me, Liv. But you were right. The air in my small rental stilled." "You mean the box?" "I mean all of it." He paused. "Madison's furious. The company's gone. But I'm seeing clearly now. You weren't the problem. I was." I leaned against the wall, eyes closed. This wasn't the man who treated me like staff. He sounded human. "Dad," I said cautiously, "I didn't want to ruin you. I know. You want to shake me awake. I'm awake." His voice cracked. Madison asked me yesterday who'd save her now. What did you say? He gave a hollow chuckle. I told her she'd have to figure out what saving herself feels like. I didn't answer right away. My heart ached, not from guilt, but from recognition. Maybe this was healing. Two people talking without money as a barrier. I saw your mother in you that day, he said. That calm when you said, okay. That was her. A lump caught in my throat. Mom wouldn't have let it get this far. No, he admitted. But she'd be proud you did what I couldn't walk away. Silence hung, soft but weighty. What now? I asked. I don't know, he said. Maybe we start with truth. Maybe I stopped thinking control is love. I wanted to stay angry, but his regret, raw, not manipulative, cracked something open in me. I'll be in Maine for a while, I said. Finding who I am without all this. He chuckled faintly. Maybe one day, when you're ready, I'll come by. No folders, no demands. Bring coffee, I said softly. Not deck, he replied, his laugh small and weary. Deal. When the call ended, I stared at the sea beyond my window, the wind carrying salt and fresh starts. I'd thought freedom was escape, but maybe it was simpler, a conversation free of control. 3 months later, peace came in small doses. Coffee's aroma at dawn, seagulls bickering outside, silence that no longer felt like a penalty. Maine had a way of cleansing you without asking. I started leading financial literacy workshops at the community center, teaching 10 women, each carrying echoes of my story. The mother who always gave, the sister who always forgave, the daughter who always paid. When I spoke of boundaries and self-worth, it wasn't a lecture. It was a confession. One evening, Madison called. Not sobbing, just weary. Dad's doing better, she said quietly. He's in some accountability group. That's good, I replied. And me? She paused. I got a job. Furniture store. Real one, not some online gig. I smiled. Proud of yourself yet? Trying to be, she whispered. I didn't think starting over would feel so quiet. It's supposed to, I said. Quiet means you're not running anymore. Then she said something I hadn't heard in years. Thank you, Liv, for not bailing me out. When the call ended, I cried, not from hurt, but from the strange relief of letting go. Weeks later, my father sent a postcard, a fishing dock, blue water, his handwriting shaky. You were right. I taught you business, not love. Learning now. Proud of you, Dad. I pinned it above my desk. That night, I walked to the shore, the wind cold and kind. I thought of the box, the flight, the fallout, the talks that mended more than they broke. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for a knock at my door. All that sat on my porch was the sea song and a freedom that didn't need forgiveness. True story.